Hello, everybody. I am Lukas, and today we will talk about handling packages with Melos. And if you haven't met me before, I think I have met like half of the people in here, because I think the Dart and Flutter community is not very big at the conference. Well, I'm a part of something called the Blue Fire Open Source Collective, and our biggest package is called Flame, which is a game engine for Flutter. And I will say how we used Melos to handle the problems that we had in Flame. So first, you have to know what the problem is, what we're trying to solve with Melos. And then I'll talk very briefly about monorepos, because you probably already know what it is. And I will introduce what Melos is. And semantic versioning will be very brief too, because you probably know that too. And some of you might not have heard of conventional commits, so I will go through that, since that is one of the basics needed to use Melos. And then we have how we can do automatic versioning and changelog generation and use Melos to publish all of our packages. So this is what Flame looks like in the repository. First we have our core package up there, which is just called Flame, and then we have lots and lots of other packages in there. And the problem we had before we had Melos was that, we update, so most of these packages, they depend on Flame. So we update something in Flame, and we have path dependencies to Flame, and then we forget to update one of the other packages, and then everything just becomes broken, and you have to do a lot of steps manually. Because when you have to publish, you have to remove the path dependencies and make sure that everything is in sync. But then we found Melos, and it just solved all of our problems. So as you saw there, we have lots and lots of packages, and a lot of them are depending on each other. So then we have to have a lot of the packages updating at the same time. And when you're developing, you want all those packages to be connected so that you can see the changes directly without having to do path dependencies to other repositories or so. And then you want to version these dependencies in a sensible way, and you don't want to do, you want the changelogs to be generated. That's one of the big problems we had too, that every time someone made a pull request, they had added a line to the changelog, and then there were lots and lots of pull requests at the same time, so it was merge conflicts on the changelog in pretty much every pull request. And with the generation of the changelogs, we get away from that, and we also get much nicer changelogs. So monorepos, you already know what it is. Probably you have all of your repositories inside of one repository so that they can depend on each other. The most famous repository that is a monorepo is probably Google's monorepo, which is, I think, about 80 terabytes big now. So I wouldn't make a repository that is that big, but that's what they did. So why and when would you use a monorepository? So if you have multiple packages, it gets a lot easier to reuse code. You get simplified dependency management, since, as I said before, like if you depend on the packages within the monorepository, it's much easier to handle them than if you have to pull in like Git submodules and stuff like that. Everyone that has worked with that know how terrible that is. And you get atomic commits. So you make changes to several packages at the same time because they depend on each other, and then you can get that as one commit or one pull request towards one repository, which is quite nice, because then you can much easier track when things have happened. And you can do large-scale code refactoring. So you can change things across multiple repositories within the repository at once. And you can easily collaborate across teams on a single big repository, which is nice. And then as with everything, there are some cons of using a monorepo. So you don't have the per project access control as you would if you just separate them completely, or at least that is the case if you're using just a naive Git solution with all of the projects in there. I think there are some solutions that solve this, but then you have to use other revision systems, and that's not very nice. The Git performance can go down. So like if you have 80 terabytes in your repository, Git will not be able to handle that at all. And you have more storage needed by default, but that doesn't really matter anymore. Like, people run around with several terabytes on their laptops, and code isn't that big. So what is Melos? Melos is a command line interface tool used to help you manage Dart projects and Flutter projects that are within a monorepo. And you can actually use it. I use it when I don't have a monorepo too, when I just have one single repo, because Melos has such a lot of great other tools that you can use. And you get automatic versioning and changelog generation. So I will talk a little bit more about that later. And it becomes a lot simpler to publish a lot of packages to pub/dev when you want to publish several at the same time. And it links all of the packages that you have locally to each other without you having to go in and fiddle in the pubspec files. So we'll just either fix your log files, or it will use the pubspec overrides YAML file for that, which is very nice. And you can use the Melos YAML file, and there you can specify different actions that you want to be able to run on different packages simultaneously or concurrently, which is very nice if you want to do that in CI, for example. And you can just easily list what packages you have in your repository. So now I had no idea how many packages we had in our repository now, for example, and I just listed them, and apparently we have 30 packages within our repository, which is quite a lot. And to install Melos, you just do flutter pub global activate Melos, and then you have it on your system if you have added the path to the binaries. And the semantic versioning, as I said, I will just very briefly mention this. So in semantic versioning, you have the major version, which is the first one there, the minor, which is second, and the last one, which is the patch. So when you do bug fixes, you will bump the patch, and when you do new features, you will bump the minor, and when you do breaking changes, you will bump the major. And then if you have done a lot of changes, you might be wondering when you're doing a release, like, oh, what should the new version actually be? What changes have I done? And then you have to manually go through and look what changes you've done. But together with the conventional commits, Melos can just figure out what the new version should be, which is awesome. So conventional commits is just a tag that you put in the beginning of your Git message or in the body. And so you have like feat for a feature and fix for a bug fix and docs for docs and etc. So that could look something like this. So here we have first a new feature like, oh, the position component now has a built-in decorator, or a fix like, okay, something was missing here that we're adding. And then we have this exclamation mark that means breaking change. So then Melos will know that, oh, okay, then we have to bump major. And from these conventional commits, it can also generate a changelog, which is very nice. So this is a part of a changelog generated for Flame, for example. So it just links to the different pull requests and the commits, and yeah, it's just very clean and nice, I think. A lot nicer than what we used to have in Flame before. So when you start with Melos, you have to do Melos Bootstrap. And if you introduce new packages into your monorepo, you also have to do Melos Bootstrap, and that will just link all of the packages together and do pub-get everywhere, etc. And then you will do some commits to the repository, and later you decide, oh, okay, I want to do a new version. And then you just write Melos version, and Melos version will figure out all the packages that need to be updated and give them new versions and generate new changelogs. And when you decide that you want to publish, then you just do Melos publish, and it just pushes all of those ones up to pubdev directly. And then all of the packages that are not in the monorepository can just do pub upgrade, and it magically works and doesn't break their applications, because when they're depending on it with a semantic version, and you have a properly used Melos version here, you will know that all of your users are safe. And yeah, this was, since, like I said, we have like 30 packages, it's made it so much easier for us to just write Melos publish instead of going into all the pubspec YAML files to change the version and go into the changelog and add a new version where we had this next tag and make sure that the dependencies to all of them were correct. So yeah, it really helped us out, and it would probably help you out too if you have multiple packages. All right. I hope you have some questions for me. Thank you.
I actually have one. Sometimes versioning is used for marketing, and you want to manually implement this.
Mm-hmm.
Increase it. Is it possible to increase?
Yes, and that's actually what we do in Flame 2, because we don't want to release version 2 yet, but we still do some breaking changes every now and then. So then we do the like dirty thing of then you can just pass a flag to when you version it to just tell it exactly what version you want. Good question. Any more questions? Yeah.
Is there a feature coming into Melos that you have more flexibility to also build the script elements of your?
Yes.
It's quite restricted for us right now. You want to have more control, maybe the ability to use Dart directly. You have full control of code.
So the question was whether you can run scripts on all the packages directly in Melos. Yeah, I mean, you can write anything in there. So in the melos.yaml file, you can just say that, okay, maybe I want something that checks spelling over the packages. Then you can just write spelling in there, and then you can invoke some, I don't know, cspell command or something, and then Melos will just go through all of your package tree and run it concurrently on those ones. And you can choose if, for some operations, it doesn't make sense to run it concurrently, so you can also specify how many you want to run in concurrent. And you can specify which packages it should run for, like it depends, maybe if you do freezed, for example, maybe you only want to do code generation for the packages that depend on freeze. You can just say that in there and say Melos generate, and it will only do it for the packages that actually need it. So that's why I said that it's also nice to do this on repositories where you only have a single repo, because these scripting things are so nice to just have in one place. Any more questions? Maed?
Use Melos. Have you ever wondered, like, or have you ever wished, well, there should be a command or something in Melos that you don't see it right now and you really want it?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever faced that?
So the question was whether I have used Melos and if I have been missing any command or so. And I think the biggest thing that we were missing in the beginning was the lack from Dart's side of this pubspec_overrides file, because then Melos had to go in and hack around with the lock files, and it usually became quite messy. But then one of the contributors to Melos, they went in and actually fixed that in Dart. So now, if you haven't seen the pubspec overrides file, that is also a great addition that has come into Dart from Melos. But any commands specifically, I don't know. As soon as I come up with anything, I just push up an issue for it on Melos. Yeah?
Melos looks like it's a good solution for monorepos.
Mm-hmm.
But what suggestion or alternative you the opposite way when you have multiple independent repositories besides going to monorepo?
Yeah, I don't know. So, like you have Git submodules, but that is always a mess to handle. So what you can do is use this pubspec overrides file and make sure that the tree of everyone working looks the same, because then you can do path dependencies, which are outside of the root of the package. So you can just do ... and then whatever the other package is called. So I think, yeah, that is my only suggestion for that, I think. And for the people that don't know, we have the creator of Melo sitting there in the middle. All right. Everyone is hungry and ready for lunch? Or any more questions? All right. Thank you.